put your tinfoil hats on. We got some shit to talk about. Some serious shit, okay? MMA genius, MMA mastermind, Brendan Schaub has pointed out that ESPN is trying to do dirty by the UFC before they potentially leave for another streaming partner this year. Stick around to hear what's up. What's going on, my conspiracy theorists, MMA tinfoil hatters? We got some things to talk about, okay? I do apologize. My green screen is cropping out some of my tinfoil hat. I hope that I'm still protected, okay? MMA mastermind, MMA genius Brendan Schaub went to his YouTube channel for episode 426 of The Schaub Show, talking about ESPN purposely messing with the UFC streaming while they're in negotiations to leave the platform at the end of 2025. So we got a few things. I had problems buying the pay-per-view on Saturday. It kept telling me to buy again. I was worried I was going to get like triple and quadruple charged. But we're going to get into what Brendan Schaub has to say about ESPN kind of trying to mess with the UFC's motion. And then we're going to get into some other stuff as well. Regarding this, I'll give you my thoughts on it.
Okay, not a big deal. I'll just do it right now. In my back of my mind, I'm like, it's never let me down. Not a big deal. It's 7:05 at this point. Pay-per-view started at 7. It's nothing that drives me more nuts. So I click it, purchase. Yep, ESPN clip. It goes, error. Please try again. I'm like, that's weird. Maybe it's our Wi-Fi. Look at my Wi-Fi. No, it's 5G. This thing's popping.
Zesty Schaub, I will say that. But first off, I had the same problem. Luckily, I didn't get like charged multiple times. But I did have to go through like the pay-per-view ordering process 3 or 4 times. And I did this at 6. I did this an hour before the pay-per-view. I know that's still pretty close, but it's, you know, an hour before the pay-per-view, I should be able to buy it with no issues. And I did not have that experience. Now, as we move on further into this episode, Brendan Schaub also explains the issue that a lot of us have been having. This is actually something that Schaub put out there that I think we can all agree with, is that the card quality is absolutely terrible, okay? This is something that we've been talking about on this channel for a long time, other channels as well. We're getting tired of these fights that nobody cares about ending up on a main card that we have to pay $80 for. This is Brendan Schaub specifically complaining about the Iasmin Lucindo and Amanda Lemos fight. It was a bad fight, and it totally like killed the momentum of the card. You know, Jalen Turner and Ignacio Bahamondes had a sick 1-round fight, and that kind of picked things back up. But we went from Mauricio Hoofy off-buttoning King Green in there with a spinning wheel kick. He's literally prime Connor. Like a star is born, stares over Bobby Green's unconscious body. And we follow it up with a 3-round decision in a fight that nobody gave a fuck about, and it didn't deliver.
I get the watered down fight nights like the one coming up this weekend, which we get to, the ones leading up to this pay-per-view. I get all that, and I watch all of them, and thank you, I'm grateful. But buddy, when it comes down to pay-per-view and you're asking for the public's money during the current climate we're in with inflation, eggs are $8. And you're going to give me this fight matchup of these two non-skilled fucking strawweights on a main card?
I'm not going to agree with them to say that they're not skilled, but it was a boring fight, and their outings that night would say that they're not very skilled.
Yeah, you mind. Not to mention, I couldn't get the fucking pay-per-view. So I had to watch it other ways. Geez, I wonder why so many people are illegally streaming your shit. Because this is what you're providing. Most of my boys, they're not hardcore, they're not like us in here who love UFC. They only tune in to the main or co-main event. The rest card shit. That used to not to be the case. The case used to be what separated UFC from everybody else is from top to bottom. That thing was stacked. You knew who the fuck we're fighting. And it was also the best of the best we're fighting, especially on a big pay-per-view.
And that brings in the UFC's ESPN deal where they're doing 45 cards a year. So the roster has to be 600, 700, 800 fighters. Back in the day, they probably had 200 or 300. And, you know, probably half the fighters were like in the rankings. Now you have 15 ranked guys at featherweight, and then you got like 150 or 140 other guys. I know heavyweight is very scarce on talent right now, especially with Marcos Rogerio de Lima being suspended for a year. It's 29 guys, 15 of them are ranked. You have more ranked fighters than not. And Dante O'Mai's just got cut. So I think they have 28 heavyweights. Whereas like lightweight, welterweight, bantamweight, featherweight all have 100 plus fighters in them, if I'm not mistaken. Now I understand there's fewer people that are heavyweight size, but the roster's bloated. We have too many cards. I'm actually starting to come around to the idea that we have too many UFC cards.
Well, now you've turned into fucking boxing. I know you TKO and all that shit. Well, now you're mimicking what they're doing. It's a shit product. Boxing is atrocious right now. If fucking homeboy didn't come in from the Middle East and give us the fights you want to see, even those cards are usually shit. But you're doing exactly what boxing has done, and they've ruined their product. And now you're taking a page from their book and giving us this shit? That's insane to me. That's insane.
I agree with that completely. This is literally why we stopped watching boxing as a community. Now, boxing has started to pick it up because of Turki Al-Sheikh bringing in all these guys, having Canelo under contract, cutting these big checks to Ngannou and Fury so that fight can happen, Usyk and Fury, Beterbiev and Bivol twice. And boxing's in a bad place right now. That's why Dana White's doing a complete overhaul. Go watch my video from the other day about the TKO boxing announcement if you want to know more about that. But the first point about this is the card quality is terrible, okay? We know this. It was affecting the fight nights for a long time, but now we're having subpar main card pay-per-views. Now, I'm not going to hate on it completely. Hoofy versus Bobby Green, amazing main card opener. I said that for the 2 months or whatever it was leading up to the fight. Super pumped about that. It delivered. Bahamondes Turner, another one guy ranked, the other guy not ranked type of matchup. Super delivered. Bahamondes retired Jalen Turner and threw up a sick armbar. But you also had in between those two fights, you had Lucindo versus Lemos. And look, man, we deserve better than that. I hate to say that, but us as fans forking over time and money deserve better than that. I actually think that the UFC is starting to get like almost ungrateful for the fan base that they have, because they have such a big fan base that these pockets of the fan base, keep in mind, us hardcores are not a very big population or not a very big percentage of the fan base. So these type of things don't even cross the casual's mind. And they take up 80% of the fan base, a large portion of the revenue and all of that. It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, it does make sense, but it makes sense to me, but it doesn't sit right with me that we're forking $80 over to watch Lemos lay in Lucindo's guard for 15 minutes and punch her ribs, the occasional elbow, maybe somebody goes for a heel hook, something like that. They get separated and miss boxing combos. They're just swinging at air until somebody pushes the other one up against the fence for a takedown. So I hear Brendan Schaub on that. We're at a bad place with these cards, and I would take 5 less cards a year. I would take 35 to 40 cards a year as opposed to 45 or 46 with better card quality. I'm tired of seeing like 7-2 debut guy against 9-3 debut guy being on the main card of a fight night, even if it's at the Apex. I mean, like, what are we doing here? The card coming up this weekend, the co-main event of a fight night is literally Chidi Njokuani and Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. And then you have Sungwoo Choi and Kevin Vallejos. Jesus. Halaba Hernandez somewhat makes sense as a fight night main card fight. It's not terrible. We know Alex Hernandez. Kurt Halaba was a tough guy. And then we got Cody Gibson, who I think was another tough guy, against Damon Blackshear. And then we got AJ Cunningham. Why the hell is Ryan Spann moving up to heavyweight against Salsa Boy Acosta? Why is that not on the main card? Why is that not a co-main event? What are we doing here? But anyways, back to what the GOAT MMA talking head had to say. And this is where it gets really juicy. This is what I was talking about in the beginning of the video. This is why we have our tinfoil hats on, because we need to stay aware of what's going on. Okay. ESPN's trying to fuck with the UFC at the end of this contract because they're trying to show them, according to Schaub, they're trying to show a little bit of a flex of muscle about their streaming capabilities, while the UFC is like openly talking about Netflix. There's a lot of conversation about Netflix, but Amazon's a partner as well. We talked about it on my live stream yesterday. So, hey guys, make sure you turn into my live streams. That's the fun chats with the boys. But so this is what Schaub had to say about ESPN essentially trying to sabotage the UFC 313 pay-per-view purchasing process.
ESPN Plus, the pay-per-view not working, they're in negotiation rights right now. If you think that wasn't on purpose, you out your mind. That's ESPN, who doesn't give a flying fuck about UFC, really. They're in turmoil. But if you don't think that's a flex from them, I've never had issues. All of a sudden, during negotiation rights, issues just pop up. That's somebody going, oh, really? You want to play hardball? This is what your numbers will look like without us. That's what I think. Tinfoil hat on. Never had issues. All of a sudden, half the fucking world has issues. That's weird. During negotiations, that's weird.
Brendan Schaub typically says plenty of things that we don't agree with as a community. But I'm going to back Brendan Schaub up on this. I mean, the UFC's, we're talking billions in this rights deal, and the UFC is hot as hell right now. One thing that I disagree with Schaub on is that ESPN doesn't give a flying fuck about the UFC. It's one of their bigger revenue generators. It has one of the fastest growing fan bases. And I actually just think that ESPN is not capable of keeping this product because they have issues with purchasing, which they might have done on purpose. But the pricing, the amount of shows, I feel like if the UFC was to go to Netflix or Amazon, they could dictate the number of shows without having to meet like a quota that's as strict as ESPN. Because ESPN, they don't want necessarily good content. They want as much content as possible to keep people on the platform. It's a little bit different than YouTube. YouTube rewards you by creating good content because if more people click, more people like, and people watch for a longer amount of time, you're rewarded by your video being pushed to more people. In ESPN's case, it's a pay to play. So they want people to feel like they're getting their money's worth out of an ESPN Plus subscription because they got college football, college basketball, hockey, PFL's on there as well. I mean, who gives a fuck about PFL at this point? But they have so many other sports. They have bull riding. They have all these different things, all the major sports. I think I've seen rugby on there as well. It's a quantity over quality approach to ESPN Plus, and I think that's what's hurting these cards. But specifically, although I disagree with ESPN not giving a fuck about the UFC, I do agree with him that this was on purpose by ESPN. This is just my opinion. ESPN legal department, don't come for me. This is just my opinion, but it's strange. You know, all these talks about Netflix, Amazon, or just exclusively going to UFC Fight Pass, all of those things being talked about openly. I mean, I talk about the UFC rights deal freaking once a week on this channel, on my streams and stuff. It would make sense that they're trying to play some hardball with the UFC. So in my opinion, the UFC is going to end up on a much larger platform like Amazon or Netflix come 2026. I think that's a big part of why Conor McGregor is being held out so long. If he was to ever fight again, they want to go into these negotiations, at least having one fight left on Conor McGregor's contract so that when they go to a Netflix, blah, 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 whoever, they can say, look, first quarter of our streaming deal, you're getting a Conor McGregor fight. So I've talked about this on the channel a lot. I think that the UFC is going to go to Netflix or Amazon based on their numbers of like viewers and subscriptions. It's like 10x what ESPN Plus has, especially on Netflix, because Netflix has almost 300 million subscribers. ESPN has about 30 million. It would be massive for the sport if 300 million people across the world, probably 500 million devices, phones, blah, 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 all that different stuff, because, you know, people share Netflix accounts, could log on and go, shit, dude, Conor McGregor's fighting tonight. Click on it and it's free. I think that's going to grow the sport more than anything, or even an Alex Pereira fight, something along those lines, Taporia, all that stuff. So guys, let me know what you think down below. Tune in for my live streams. Become a channel member if you want to support even further. Like, subscribe. See you next time. Thanks for watching this video, guys. Please make sure to like, subscribe, drop a comment down below. All that good YouTube stuff really helps me out a lot. If you want access to bonus content, become a channel member through the link below this video or the join button on our channel homepage. If you're interested in some non-MMA content from me, go check out my podcast, What's Up Bro, with Wyatt and Bo, linked below this video. Go watch this suggested video, and I'll see you next time.